I had a feeling that tire would probably be flat, so I got the air compressor here. We're gonna pump it up because this morning I need to get around the border of the hayfield, mow all the weeds that are there, and then I'm gonna hook that disc up and try to cut myself a fire break. Once we get done with this little job, we'll just kind of see where the day takes us. That's what's going on today on Farmer Tyler Ranch. Mowing is done about as good as I can get it. I don't get all the way over to the edge, just especially along that canal over there, because I know there's a few stumps and it's a really steep embankment. If you went past the point of no return, you'd put that tractor on its lid for sure. Let's go unhook the mower. We can come back and hook up onto the disc or the chisel. Haven't really decided what I want to use yet, and we can make this fire break. Well, I made a last minute change in plans, and I've decided to go with the chisel today for several reasons. For one, it's wider, so I could get away with like 2 passes and be done. But the main reason is that the tire that I filled up on the disc this morning is flat again already. So if you've been with the channel for a couple years, you know this has been an ongoing issue. I think it might just be time for new tires on that thing. Well, that job's done. Let's hope we never need it. Well, of all the days to forget rubber boots. I actually remember doing this as a kid, you know, when I was down here I don't know, doing whatever kids do, but one of my games was trying to pick a path across this ditch. You know, if you step on these clods or clumps, you can actually get through the water and stay relatively dry. But I don't think I'm quite as good at it now as I used to be. Nope. At some point, or I just jump in. The goal here is to get this wire taken down because I need to use it over in the middle pasture for the pasture move that the cows are going to do this evening. And the reason that I chose this wire to move, well, there are actually two. The first one is, this one is, I think, the only wire in this back pasture that's on a geared reel, so it's going to roll up a lot faster. And then the other reason is, I kind of wanted to switch this one out anyway because it is too short to use back here. This back pasture is probably, I don't know, a couple 100 feet longer than the middle and the front pasture. And this wire is actually not long enough to stretch from the back fence where we just disconnected it all the way to the other end. It's like 20 feet too short, which is ridiculous, but that's what it is. My last wire that I've got at the winter pasture is a long one, so I think that before I bring the cattle back to this back pasture, I'll have to get back over to the winter pasture, get that wire down, and put it in this one's place. Now, let's see how fast I can roll this up. Oh, that's gonna be fun. The wire's wet, so it's gonna sling water the whole time. Got it. Look at the feed out here, Cal. So yes, here we are again building fence, even though that was kind of seems like a big part of what I did in the last video. And at this point, if you guys have been with the channel for a while, there's really nothing new that I can show you. 25 paces apart on the posts, get the wire about pocket height, and you're off to the races. But unfortunately, this is what I have to do this afternoon, so it's either film this or film nothing. So I decided maybe a way to keep this fresh and interesting for you is to go through some of the comments on the video that just went up this morning, and I'll answer those while I'm doing it. They're ready to get back out here, I think. All right, first question here at the top 2 minutes ago from DM55. How many hours do I have on the LS? Earlier today when I was pulling the Firebreak, I saw that it crossed 134, I think. So a little over 130, and I am planning to do a 100-hour review of that tractor when I get a chance to do it. By the time I get a chance, it might be a 200-hour review. Nina Elliot says, it seems so unfair that the cow in front slows down or stops walking and the cow went back, gets her run. Okay, I should have read this before I started filming. Nina Elliot says, it seems so unfair that the cow in front slows down or stops walking and the cow in the back gets her rump smacked, question mark. So I assume what Nina is referring to is when I was moving the bulls and I was using the paddle with Little Boy in the back. Nina must not be a regular viewer of the channel, which is fine. If you are a regular viewer, then you know Little Boy is very tame and he literally will not move unless you are tapping his backside a little bit, letting him know you're back there. That does not hurt him. When I was moving those bulls, it's not like they were in a single file alley. He had the choice to walk past Rivet. He chose not to, and that's just what you got to do to move that guy. Donna Casey asks if I need to top the pastures with a brush hog. The answer is yes. The backfield certainly, maybe not the middle and the front, but we'll see once they get through here what it looks like. Alfred says, good stuff. How is your hay yield compared to previous years? Well, thank you, Alfred. The hay yield was actually pretty average. It wasn't outstandingly great. It wasn't bad. It's just kind of what it usually is. Or I should say, it's what it usually is when I don't have some sort of a disaster. Ready? Let's go. Cindy Surinto, if I'm pronouncing that right, asks how many bales per roll of net wrap. That's actually a good question because I don't really know the answer. It depends what size bales you're making. I did figure that per ton, you actually use more net wrap on the 4-foot bales as opposed to the 6-foot bales. But this year, of the 328 bales that we made, I used about 2 rolls of net wrap exactly. That's way too high. Let's try. Sherry writes, I heard that goats help with wildfires in California, plus eat weeds that cows don't want. That is true. Goats will eat almost anything. In fact, they prefer like leafy, sort of woody plants as opposed to grass, whereas cows are the exact opposite. I've seen goats used as brush clearing a little bit around here. More so you see them using sheep. And I think the reasons why are obvious, to me at least. Sheep are a lot easier to keep than goats. We actually had goats out here many years ago, and when I got rid of them, I said that I would never get another one because they're just a constant hassle, and I just got tired of dealing with it. Caroline Kelman says, iron-framed bale spear losing weight by freezing out the moisture by leaving it out over winter. Yep, that's a good idea. It didn't get any lighter over the winter. I read that as being snarky, and if it's not, I apologize, but it sounds like you're being snarky to me. And I guess that's the big problem with comments and text messages for that matter. Sometimes it's hard to read tone. Assuming that is snarky, I would say mellow out, you know, just don't go through life that way. It's fine. My bale spear is heavy and it's rusty and life goes on. And I think in the video you could hear me say, oh, I guess it didn't get any lighter over winter. That was actually a joke. Sometimes I like to make little dumb jokes to myself because with the exception of Callie here, I'm pretty much by myself all day. Diane Markham asks, FTR, what are the names of your 3 bulls? I can remember Little Boy and Rivet, but I can't think of the third one. The third one is, I always call him the Bismarck calf because when I got him, that's essentially what he was. He's not a calf anymore. So I started calling him the Bismarck bull, which is a mouthful for a name. So we probably should think of something a little bit more streamlined to call him, maybe just Busy or Bismarck or whatever it might be. If you have suggestions as to what we should call the third bull, let me know. Thurlow Family Farm asks or says, I know I've asked this before and you probably get the questions and get tired of answering them, but how come you guys don't grow perennial hay crops? The big limitation in my hay field is the fact that there is no irrigation, and people, they don't believe me when I say this, but from roughly May to October, it does not rain at all. So if you don't have irrigation, stuff is going to dry up and die. That's why there are huge wildfires out west. It's because we don't get summer rain like most of the rest of the country does. So because I don't have water in that hay field, I'm pretty much limited to annual hay crops, which would be ryegrass, oats, wheat, barley, anything like that. And the problem, because ryegrass, like you can see ryegrass is growing out here, it comes back on its own, but when you cut and take a hay crop off of that field, you're taking all of those seeds with you. So like if I was to just not do anything to the hay field, let it rain and just see what comes up, some volunteer stuff would come up, no doubt, but the density of the hay wouldn't be very good, and it, you know, just wouldn't be making the most out of that land resource. So I guess the short answer is irrigation. If you don't have irrigation, you're very limited to what you can grow. If I did have irrigation out there, that would all be in alfalfa for sure. Julia Cameron Andrews says, kind of thoughtless of the neighbor to not even wait one day to water his trees. He had to be aware that you were baling and check wind direction. And I actually do not fault the neighbor at all for watering his trees. He's got every right to do that. And you know, he's not out there checking the moisture of my hay, nor does he know the schedule that I'm baling it on. So I would absolutely not expect someone to take that into consideration. Like, if your trees need water, you got to water them. But I do appreciate you coming to my defense. And then the other thing here, and there's no way to know this for sure, but generally speaking, what I have noticed in this area is that most of the farmers are pretty much specialized in what they do. So like the orchard guys, by and large, only do orchards. Rice guys, by and large, only do rice, and so on. So to assume that an orchard grower has the first idea about how to make hay is probably incorrect. I bet he doesn't have the first thought of how to get it done. So it wasn't malicious or negligent or anything on the neighbor's part. It was just kind of a funny thing that happened, honestly. Jerry Miller writes, why don't you keep a couple bull calves that have good traits and trade or sell them to get new bulls for your bloodline? On its surface, that sounds like a good idea, but there's a couple reasons why that wouldn't be as great of an idea as it sounds. The first one being that most people that are in the market to buy a bull, they want to buy from a reputable breeder. They want EPD sheets, they want lineage and all of that stuff that I really wouldn't be able to give them. If I left a couple of calves as bulls and took them to the sale, they would just be sold as slaughter bulls, and that's the price that I would get for them. The world of selling bulls is competitive, and just trying to sell one or two like that would actually be a lot harder to do than you would think. This would be a good question for Jeremy. Actually, I think I have my Split Creek hat on today. But maybe the next time I talk to him, I'll ask him that to see what his answer would be. And just like that, the fence is done. This paddock that they've been in for just shy of 24 hours has what I would call a great level of disturbance. It's obvious by looking at it that cattle have grazed out here, but they have not abused any of that grass either. This next paddock that they're going into is slightly bigger. First one is 2 checks, this one is 3 checks, and they'll be out here for the same amount of time. So I'm hoping that we get a similar result. And last thing before we open the gate and let the cows back out here is, of course, a voltage check. We've got 7.9 on this side of the jumper. Let's see what it is on the other side. It should be the same, but you know, that's why you got to check. Huh. That looks good to me. Have you guys been waiting patiently here? Guess I don't know where to go, huh? Well, this is the most anticlimactic pasture move I think I've ever done, which tells me that they are full, which is good. And if you're thinking that I should make these paddocks smaller so that, you know, we don't have this problem, I might do that, but what I suspect will happen is that throughout the summer, they will slowly start catching the grass and start getting ahead of it until we get back to that point of equilibrium. And that's what I expect to happen, but you know, we shall see. But I think that's gonna about do it for this one. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.